Greetings! So today I want to do something a bit different. I'm gonna be trying to record the voiceover as I do the thing I'm doing. So what I want to do today is I want to paint a swatch of genuine manganese blue and then try to see if I can come up with a mix of readily available colors that gets close to the color I get from genuine manganese blue. The reason why I want to try that out is because the pigment that is used for manganese blue, PB33, is no longer in production. So basically, there is no longer any genuine manganese blue available, except from possibly some artisan paint maker like Dan at Penholder Art. Still has a bit of the pigment and he still makes a few pans of this color. So it's I have one and I treasure it immensely over here. It's a really unique color and it's a color that I really enjoy, so I'm really bummed out that it's gone. But I feel like it's a more productive stance to try and find a way to reproduce that effect rather than lament the loss. So I'll start by painting an actual swatch of manganese blue. It is such a pretty color. It is kind of a cool greenish blue that is heavily granulating. And as such, there is not that many colors that are similar. It's a color that I really enjoy for painting skies. So I can already, I can already tell by looking at it that it might be difficult to reproduce that specific color. So what I have here is my go-to Schmincke set. It has 26 colors in it, but it's the 24 color set in which I added 2 colors. I'm also in the process of possibly switching out some colors, so this chart is not necessarily fully accurate as of right now, but it still has cobalt teal here and a few blues here and there that I possibly want to try mixing to see if I can come close to manganese blue color. So that's why I picked this set. It's kind of messy a bit. I don't know, you cannot see the full palette, but every mixing space has some color in it, so I'm gonna get an extra mixing palette. I always have a few hanging around. They get a bit dusty though. Alright, so the reason why I decided to try using cobalt teal and other colors is because cobalt teal on its own is already granulating, so that reproduces well the effect of manganese blue. This is just pure cobalt teal, and you can see that in terms of texture effect, it's pretty similar to manganese blue. I'm gonna try the first mix with some ultramarine finest from Schmincke too. It's their least granulating ultramarine pigment, but in terms of general painting, it's my favorite one to go to. I'm not super fond of French ultramarine because for some reason it's often much harder to reactivate. Is what I'm trying to say. So I'm really just trying to go by eye. Not too far off, I would say. It possibly needs a bit more cobalt teal in there. Let me grab some more. I don't think I can get the exact color of manganese blue because it's a thing on its own. It's a pigment, and I'm trying to come close with different pigments. So it's not, and I'm not following a very scientific process here, so I'm just painting swatches and seeing what I can come up with. It's not too bad. Of course, it doesn't granulate as heavily as Dan's Manganese Blue. I'm using some bee cotton paper. It's kind of difficult to use cellulose paper once you are used to painting on cotton paper. Let's see if I had a bit more water in it, if I can get it to granulate more. If you have a paint that is granulating, you need a really watery wash for the granulation to occur more strongly, because it's through the water that the heavier particles settle down. So that's how it moves and granulates. If you have a really dry wash, it's not gonna granulate as much. Okay, I want to try Cobalt Teal again, because that's sort of my granulating base for these mixes, but I'm gonna try with the one they call Cerulean Blue Tone, which is phthalo blue, yellow or green shade. So PB 15:3, and they put some white in it apparently, but I don't really see it. So I'm not sure about that. Let's have some reference swatches again. Okay, so it's this one. I don't use this color a lot. That's what I'm trying to do with this set in general, is I'm trying to switch out the colors that I use less for color I would use more, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. Okay. I think this is possibly a bit closer. I know it's a mix that I use quite often when I'm painting skies, because I generally, like in a regular setting, I kind of prefer the skies I paint to be, oops, cat hair, to be on the cold side, which in this context means having kind of a yellow undertone rather than a red undertone. That's really not too bad. It's a bit more yellow than this would have, and since I'm using a staining color that has really fine particle, when it granulates, it doesn't have some white areas in the granulation, which is the paper, or some really light blue color in the granulation areas. It's gonna have the phthalo blue, because the particles are much finer, so they're not gonna settle with the cobalt teal. The cobalt teal is gonna settle, and the phthalo blue is gonna stay on the paper, if that sort of makes sense. I'm guessing that this specific cobalt teal is not the most granulating I could have taken, because it doesn't, even on the plain swatches, it doesn't show a lot. We'll try and do a more watery one again, see if that creates a bit more granulation. I'm kind of happy with this mix though. It's not exactly the same hue, but it's kind of close. I've often seen a phthalo blue green shade used as a substitute in manganese blue hue colors. I've seen many of them have this PB 15:3 phthalo blue green shade, and some have white. What else did I see? I've seen it quite a lot. As far as I know, only Da Vinci, the paint company, still uses genuine manganese blue in their manganese blue hue, so they mix it with another pigment. But yeah, a lot of companies will use just regular phthalo blue and add some sort of substance in the paint so it granulates a bit more, because in itself it doesn't granulate at all. what else can I try? I could try with the PB16. I don't know if that's in... No, it's not in frame. Hold on. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so here is my Cobalt Teal. This is Helio Turquoise, PB16. So I will try this mix too, just for the sake of trying, since that's what I'm doing. So let's start over again. Reference swatches. So this is my Cobalt Teal here. In itself, Manganese Blue was one of the pricier pigments, even when it was available like more readily. So that the fact that I'm using Cobalt Teal to try and mix it doesn't really changes its price point. More often than not, Phthalo Blue green shade is really easy to find, and Cobalt Teal is present in most paint companies. Their watercolor range has it. So if I can get a color that I find close enough to these two, it's gonna give me some peace of mind, and I can stop obsessing over the fact that Manganese Blue is gone, and it's one of my favorite colors and I cannot find it anymore. Alright, this here. It's a lot more green. So I don't think it's gonna work that well because this is not that green. But let's just see it anyway. Yeah, that doesn't really come as close to this color. It's nice though. It's a really nice sort of aqua teal color. This one here. There's another thing that I want to try. I'll have to tinker a bit because I don't know where it is, but I want to see if I use a color like a genuine Cerulean or a Cobalt Blue. If I mix them with the Cobalt Teal, if I can get something a bit more close to this Manganese Blue. So I had to take out the heavy artillery, but I found the colors I was looking for. In my Holbein reference palettes, I have Cerulean Blue here, PB35. I have Cobalt Blue, PB28. So that's what I was looking for. I also see that I have Cobalt Turquoise Light here, but I think that's going to be a bit too green for my mixes. So I have that here. And I also looked at what I have in terms of Daniel Smith colors. Ouch. I don't have I don't have all of them though. But what I have here is Cerulean Blue Chromium, which is PB36. In both cases, both Holbein and Daniel Smith have a manganese blue hue, and they both use PB15. So I guess I could possibly use PB15 and some granulating agent in there, but the granulating agents I've tried so far were not super awesome. And I have a Cobalt Blue here too. So let's see, which one should I'm gonna start with the Cobalt Blue here. So I have a sort of a mashup of palettes on this side. I'm gonna start with some Cobalt Teal again. Reference swatch. And I'm gonna add some of that Daniel Smith Cobalt Blue in there. The advantage of using Cobalt Blue and Cobalt Teal is that they are both granulating, but they're also both quite expensive, so I'm not so sure, though that kind of comes really close to. Hold on, let's add a bit more of the Cobalt Blue in there. That's a lot. That's very close to this color. Like very, very close to this color. Not as granulating, like I mentioned before. I found that generally handmade paints with granulating pigments tend to be more granulating because of the way they are molded by hand. It allows to keep a bit of larger particles in there, so they granulate more heavily. But that's really, really close in terms of hue to this. I hope it's going to show on camera, but in front of it's a bit too green, but I'm going to keep this one in mind. Of course, I'm going to label these when I'm done, so while I still remember which colors I used. Just don't want to label them right away because this is still wet and I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be smooshing all my swatches. Should I try some other ones while at it? Why not? The thing that bothers me the most about the Daniel Smith pans is that they don't stick well to plastic palettes. So I've had to use some creative ways to get them to stick in there, but even then that's not perfect. What do I have in here? Oh, I have the Cerulean Blue Chromium. I don't really remember what that color is like. It's PB36. Running out of space a bit. Okay, let's just add it here. It's also a granulating color, so that has potential in the context of our mix. It's too green. That's also not really bad duplicate of the color. Though, as you can see, even when the swatches dry, I use granulating colors, but it really doesn't granulate as heavily as that. So that's a bit of a bummer because I'm really loving this granulation. It adds a lot of personality to, let's say you paint a sky with that. It adds a lot of texture and mood to a sky, even if it's a nice, happy, colorful sky. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's kind of darker. I think the Cerulean Blue Chromium packs a lot of strength. Put that aside, and I think the last mix I'm gonna try is with the Holbein color for Cerulean Blue, though that's PB35. Is that the one I just tried? Hold on, I thought I'm gonna check just to be sure. But I have PB28 in the Cobalt Blue here. That's PB36. Okay, that one is PB36. And the other one I wanted to try was PB35 to see if there's some sort of difference there. I don't know where I'll make those swatches though. I'm running out of space a bit. Okay, let's squeeze them in here. Holbein colors are very smooth, so I don't know how it will pan out in terms of granulation, but we'll see. These colors have no problem staying in their palette. which is a really nice feature of Holbein paints. Put them in a plastic palette and they won't move from there. I could peel them off if I wanted, but they're not gonna roll around the palette like that Daniel Smith does. Oh, this is quite nice actually. I'm loving this one too. Oh, now I don't remember which mix it was. Let's start over. That's the problem with mixing so many colors, because look at this. They kind of all look the same a bit. Okay, so let's start over. Teal. This is the middle well, so I should be able to remember this one. It needs more blue than that because it's not as much a teal color, the genuine manganese, as a blue color. That's really close. Let's see if I can add a bit more blue in it. Who knows, maybe mixing a good manganese blue hue requires 3 paints. Like I'm trying with 2 right now, but it's quite possible that none of this group of 2 will do the trick. Though this is quite close as well. Yeah, interesting. This is very interesting, I find. I hope you find too. Let's okay, let's clear this up a bit. Let me try and see if I can write in. Alright, so I'm gonna double check because I don't want to. So it might be tricky. Up. That's PB 35. Yeah, brain, good job. 35, not 34. I'm not sure that exists. That's PB 36. This one is Cobalt Blue, so I think that's PB 28. PB means pigment blue. That one is PB 16. I'm not gonna include the white pigment in this one because it's not really relevant to the color per se. And this is ultramarine blue. And of course we have this color, which unfortunately I do not have the pigment code handy. Oops, am I making a big mess again? Okay, that's not too bad. So yeah, well, it's a bit all over the place and I should probably wait for this to dry before I compare the colors with the reference swatch. But I think it has potential. So I'll let this dry and I'll come back when it's completely dry. Alright, so I am back. This is my dry sheet of swatches. This is I painted a small reference swatch of the genuine color so I can easily compare my mixes with it. Obviously, none of the mix is as granulating as this one. So that's something that will possibly need a bit more work. Perhaps if I can find a more granulating cobalt teal color, that would help me. So that's a thing I might improve on. But let's see. This color, it's not quite there. I mean, on its own, it's a nice mix, but it's not exactly a match for this one. This one is not exactly either. I don't think they didn't seem to get as strong as this, so maybe that's another thing I could improve on, is trying to make stronger mixes, because this manganese blue is quite strong. This one is possibly a bit better. There might be something in between these two here that could work for me. This one is not even close. Nice try, but not really. This one is not exactly there in terms of the hue, but it's quite nice. It's possibly the most granulating mix I have on there. but it's not exactly. I think this is a bit too muted to allow me to get to this level. And the last mix over here is also not that bad, to be honest. Not quite there yet, but maybe it's another one that I should try finding more granulating versions of these colors and then mixing them a bit more strongly. Watercolor tends to lighten as it dries, so that's something also I should take in consideration. I think there is potential here. I'll have to possibly think more on this and see if there's another color that I could mix in, or maybe if I should compare the genuine one with the hues. It's possible that there's a hue that does the trick, but I don't have that many hues, so it's difficult for me to compare. I guess there will be more work to do on this, so there might be a follow-up video to this one. What do you think of these mixes and the genuine manganese blue? Is it a color that you miss? Is it a color that you would use if it was more available? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye!